Are we rolling?
Yeah, you are.
Oh, that was quick. I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
This is all going to end up in B-roll. Hello everyone and welcome back to Someone Else's Story. Today I am joined by the fantastic Megan Tanner as she shares her experiences of being a foster carer. Megan, welcome!
Thank you so much.
You?
Really well, how are you?
I'm good, thank you so much for coming.
I'm so excited.
I'm so excited! So me and Megan met last year now, right?
It was lockdown.
I say met. We were introduced over lockdown. Megan stalked me on the internet.
I Google stalked you.
Then reached out and we got a chatting, and now she's a dear friend. We finally met in person only towards the end of last year, which is nuts to me. I've been so much longer.
Came to see you in School of Rock. Like, gosh, I've never met you before.
Yeah. This is a bit like a blind date, but
Yeah,
and now here we are, and we're going to have a little bit of a chat about what you do.
I'm so excited, yeah.
So Megan, for anyone watching at home or wherever you are who doesn't know what a foster carer is or does, what do you do?
Right, so foster carer. Basically, we just look after other people's children who, when they're not able to look after themselves, and that can be for so many different reasons. Obviously the abuse, so emotional, psychological, physical, sexual, all of that abuse, neglect. But also maybe parents have passed away, I had an orphan once, or parents are in hospital and there's no one else to look after them. So it can be for loads of different reasons. And then we become their surrogate parent and look after them while they're with us.
As long as they need, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are there any misconceptions that kind of spring to mind about what you think society thinks the job is as opposed to what it actually is?
You know what, that's really interesting. I actually asked on social media last night because I didn't know what other people thought.
Brilliant.
And so many misconceptions from you can't foster if you're single, I'm single.
Yeah.
You can't foster if you rent, I rent.
Yeah.
So a whole load of misconceptions on why you couldn't foster.
Right.
Or things like, I couldn't foster because it would be so tragic when they leave, I'll be heartbroken. You're obviously quite cold-hearted.
Wow, okay, great, love that. Love that conception of you.
Wow! Actually, I'm quite traumatised from the ones that have left. You cry and you have heartbreak and you do it again because kids need you. So there's misconceptions like that. There's misconceptions that we get paid a fortune. I like to point out, I get less than £5 a day, and that is for that money then has to go on school books, toys, toiletries, anything like that. So you pay, you don't get money for it. Misconceptions that once they leave care, you're never going to see them again.
Yeah.
I've got 8 who are over 18. I love them dearly.
Yeah.
I see them too much. You don't get rid of them all the
Distance would
time.
be great.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So there's loads of misconceptions that once kids are, it's quick to get into foster care. So there's a trauma or an abuse and social services swoop in and you're out. I had one teenager who was in domestic violence situation for 1.5 years before she was removed. And it was serious domestic violence. So they're not, social services just don't come in and go, oh, we've had one call, you're out in care. 1.5 years she had to live with it still. So it's a lot of misconceptions about things. But that's some of them.
Yeah. So Megan, how did you get into being a foster carer?
So I was trained as an actor and worked as an actor.
All the best people are and do.
I know, right? Until my early 30s. And then I was in my early 30s and I thought, you know what? I've got the time, I'm renting a nice 2-bed place, I've got the space, I can do this. And actually, I'll tell you, when I was about 15, I was going to be put into care.
Oh, wow.
So, So my whole life, I kind of sat there and thought, gosh, luckily I wasn't. I was obviously my dad, not my mum. My mum's glorious. But there's always been something in me that's thought, gosh, that could have been me.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to foster if and when I could. So I started doing a choir at one of the local authorities in London with the LAC teenagers and the social workers, just to kind of see it in a natural environment.
Yeah.
Could I do this? Could I not? and I absolutely loved it. So yeah, so I applied, and you go through a whole it can take up to 6 months
Right.
of interrogation
Yeah.
into your whole life. The questions like, when you were 10, who was your favourite person? I don't remember yesterday. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what 10 is.
Yeah.
So, really, it's called a Form F. It's really intrusive, but kind of interesting as well to find out what actually your answers are on questions that you never normally get asked. And then once that happens, you're off. So that was early 30s, passed my Form F, and that was that. So
That's incredible.
I couldn't carry on acting though, because you can't do theatre and foster.
Of course.
So I had to quit acting, quit theatre, which is sad, but...
But all that was quite straightforward for you. You were like, I want to do this. This is where I'm gonna. It just kind of fell into place, and you did, and that's amazing.
I had no idea I was going to do it until one day I woke up and thought, I'm going to foster. And that was that. Yeah, so it wasn't like...
And you never looked back?
Never looked back.
So when we look at a placement, when a kid is placed in foster care, how does that happen? What does that look like for you? What does it look like for them? How should it happen?
How should it happen? Yeah. Let's do how should it happen.
There we go. We'll start with the ideal, and we'll see. Obviously, every case, as we've said, every case is nuanced. Every case is different. It will take different amounts of time.
Definitely.
Give us the ideal.
Okay. So when you do your Form F, you get also a questionnaire that looks at what you're able environmentally and personally to deal with.
Yeah.
So for example, living in a 2 up, 2 down, I couldn't look after a child in a wheelchair.
Sure.
My house doesn't cater for it. Personally, I'm pretty terrified of babies.
Yeah.
So on a personal level,
I feel that.
I wouldn't foster a baby.
You're cute, a terrifying kid, so.
Yeah. On the other hand, I'm totally cool with absconding, drugs, alcohol, self-harm, child sexual exploitation. So I foster the kind of what we call high challenge, high traumatized older teenagers.
Sure.
So you do this profile and that works out environmentally and personally what you can foster and how is best. And then you get something called a referral.
Right.
And the referral comes through and you get the age of the child and different bits about the child to make sure that it would be a good placement.
Right.
For example, if you have a child who has hurt animals, but you've got a dog, that's not going to be an okay placement.
Right.
Or a child whose school is 3 hours away.
Yeah.
That's not going to work necessarily. So you go through and you ask all your questions, read it, find all your questions, send them back, say yes, hopefully, and then you just wait.
But you're allowed to say no as well.
Yes,
Then if you like anything comes up,
absolutely.
you're like,
I've definitely said no over the decade of fostering quite a few times for different reasons. And then, if you're matched, so the local authority says, yes, this is the person we want our child to go to. The child, teenager, will get a sort of like welcome book thing. So it's got your photo, and it's about your house, and it's got the local area information, and they're able to look at it, and hopefully, you know, that kind of settles a little bit any nerves or worries that they're just going to turn up at a stranger's house. Yeah. And then you're off. But obviously sometimes you might say yes, but somebody else will be chosen for the placement because of different things. Maybe actually they've got more experience in something, or the location's better.
So we'll go out to several of you that are on the list.
Absolutely.
You go back and then they kind of
everyone gets your profile, and then they pick and choose who the local authority will decide who they think.
Sure.
So it's like an audition.
Yeah.
It totally is.
It's gonna be hardcore theatrical, like.
I know. It's like waiting for the callback.
Yeah, absolutely.
So once it's all been arranged,
yeah.
In a perfect world, what will happen is you will have some sort of like meet and greet. So maybe the child or the teenager will come over for a cup of tea or something, just see you. That's never happened.
Right.
So I'm on my 11th, and that's not
It's
happened
never,
yet.
okay,
So that just doesn't really happen. But that's in an ideal world. So really, what does happen is you get a call, and it could be any time. They're coming at 3. They're coming at 11 p.m. Especially if it's an emergency.
Right.
You know. I had a call when So I was in London in Starbucks, I live in Buckinghamshire, and they said, oh, number 11's coming at 5. And I just thought, I've got no pillows. Because the pillows I thought were a little bit, you want fresh pillows and bedding, don't you? And I've got everything else, but I haven't got pillows. And I was like, I haven't got pillows. I need to go home and buy pillows. So it just happens.
Yeah.
And you're ready. And then the child or the teenager just, it's hard. It shows up with their social worker. And that's that. And sometimes they arrive with suitcases, and sometimes they arrive with bin bags.
Wow.
And you don't know how they're going to come, especially if it's from a neglect situation. So sometimes number 11 has got so much more stuff in her room than I have in my whole house. Like, to be fair, she's come with loads.
All of it.
But some, absolutely nothing. So it's like a big trip to shop and get the necessary things. But
when it's an emergency placement, do you still? Does that process still happen in a condensed time? It's just, or is it just go?
Yeah,
Okay.
It can happen in a condensed time, or it literally is like, we need an emergency for a weekend. Something's being sorted on the Monday, but we've got nowhere for 3 days.
Right. Okay. And does that?
I have no idea what child or teenagers arriving.
I was going to say, so that's not. So will they still pay attention to your? I work best with older children, or are you sometimes like? Here's a 3-year-old you don't know what to do with.
Pretty much that. So for respite, there was an emergency respite. The foster carer had to go and whatever. So there's emergency respite, and I got called up. My social worker said, I know you don't want any children under 8 because you're scared of them. I was like, absolutely. She says, this child is 5 and emotionally presents as 3. It's like, oh my goodness. Okay.
Potentially your worst nightmare.
Yeah. Ran to Tesco's, bought colouring things.
Great,
like stickers, glitter, whatever you need for a job. And for 14 days, I had this tiny little 5-year-old who refused to call me Megan, called me Sarah. I mean, hilarious. And I didn't realise that they have an attention span of a gnat.
Yeah.
So 3 seconds of all this stuff I bought from Tesco's was bored. And I spent the whole 2 weeks playing with the box.
Great.
So, that wasn't.
Whatever works. Whatever buys peace for life. If you want the box, go
have the box. That definitely. I did not feel secure. I didn't feel like I was knowledgeable about this placement, but it was an emergency, and you make it happen. Though I did call multiple times, going, "Help! What do I do?"
Don't bring the box back up. That's incredible.
It is amazing, and it's also heartbreaking when they arrive, especially the teenagers. When the teenagers arrive and just, they don't know you, they want to be with their parents, and they're not. And no matter what parents have done, the kids and teens still love them. Yeah. That's unquestionable. And most of the time, especially when they get to teenagers and they understand, so cognitively they can understand this was not okay. Yeah. More than, say, a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old. They go through that process with you where they say things, I know what mum, dad, I know this is wrong, but I just want to be with them still. So it's this really difficult emotional place for them to be in. But one thing, she did say I could tell you. So current number 11, I was telling her about this. And I said, anything that you think, because everybody
world
thinks,
needs to know.
Brilliant. I said, everybody thinks that foster carers are like these angelic humans who have just like this incredible ability. And they welcome children into their home, and children are so thankful. They're coming from an abused family, and they're coming to, and they're just like, Megan, thank you so much for doing this for me. And she went, I wanted to kill you. She said, I was not thankful when I arrived. Me and my best friend sat there going, how can we kill her?
Actual plotting.
We're literally plotting to kill you because I didn't want to be in care, and I didn't want to be with you. I don't even know you. I just wanted to kill you.
Number 11.
Number 11.
I meant number 11. Like, I'm a fan of number 11, but number 11.
To be fair, all my kids have thought that.
Yeah.
The younger ones and the older ones, they do not come into care and are thankful for you.
About it, of course.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing, going back to misconceptions.
Yeah.
People think they arrive and all they want to do is bake cakes, have that extra snuggle, and you can just heal the trauma. And actually they don't want that. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want you telling them anything. You are nothing to them, you know, and they're in so much pain and so much heartache. They're, you know, especially the teenagers, they're just doing all the things we know aren't helpful. And we can't tell them because they've got to work through it themselves. But yes, the extra love does not heal trauma. So it's not the kind of Disney dream that everyone thinks, which is super sad. Can become that for sure, but that takes time.
Yes!
Oh.
So cute. Okay, cool. So, Megan, your experience, obviously, your experience is mainly older kids. Thinking widely, do you think it's any easier for cases with younger kids? Because obviously they have, there's less of a knowledge of what's happening, but then there's more, you know, my observations have been that they're more emotional and they're less able to articulate their emotions and articulate what they're feeling, as opposed to teenagers who understand exactly what's going on and will then come with a very loaded opinion on what's happening.
I think both ways. I don't think there's one way easier than the other. I think it's hard both ways. With the teenagers, as you say, obviously they understand, they know, so that is really, really difficult. But with the little ones, they don't understand and they don't know, and it is so confusing, and they've been taken away from mummy and daddy, and most times if it's a section 20, which means that it's a voluntary, and you start off on a section 20 and then it goes to court, and court gives you the full care order.
Right.
So that happens with all foster children pretty much. But when they're on a section 20, their social services are still working with the parents, whether they're tinies or whether they're teenagers.
Right.
Trying to see if there can be some way to keep families together.
Because that's the ultimate aim, right?
Exactly.
Is to bring the family back together.
Families not to be abusive and children to stay with them. But that looks different for both ages. The little ones will do parenting classes, sometimes, generally. And that's really hard, because then the little one is with a foster carer, seeing parents, going through that, and cannot figure out why they're not with mum, dad anymore, they're with this other lady or man, and now they're seeing mum again more, and then they're never going to see mum again so much if it's going to go to a full care order and they're not going to go back home. And they don't have the words, and I think that's really hard, so it does come out in behaviour. So little ones will express it with wanting to fight or crying or saying I hate you and stuff like this. And so there's a lot of behaviour and verbal confusion, which then they're going to get told off for. So little ones are at nursery, beating other little ones up.
It's actually just them trying to express.
They're just messed up by all of this. So that's super hard. But then obviously with the teenagers, they don't do the parenting courses so much when they become teenagers. But it's the whole, I'm going to run away, I'm absconding.
Right.
Most of the time, I definitely had one teenager who I had the police over twice, 3 times a week.
Right.
So it can come out in a different type of behaviour, probably more excessive when they're teenagers. Also, it can come out more physically. So I've had I found though it was the 8 to 11-year-old age that can be child and parent violence.
Right.
So I had a little boy who was so physically would kick. My dog was at the vet's 3 times from him. So that's how it's expressed. So it can be expressed with physical violence to you as a foster carer and all sorts of other things, and just verbal abuse. But all of it, you have to look beyond the behaviour. So you have to look beyond the 3-year-olds challenging behaviour, beyond the middle school kids and the teenagers, however they're expressing, and just remember that they are hurting. They are so hurting, and they are confused, and they do not understand anything that's going on, or maybe they do understand what's going on, and actually that's just horrific. So it is going to come out in behaviour, and it is going to come out in attitude, and if you can't cope with that, you can't be a foster carer.
don't do that.
So, but it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Especially with the little ones. It's really hard because they're so confused. And with the older ones, you can talk about it more. But even if you talk about it, they don't want to hear.
You better necessarily.
You can't heal it. Yeah.
You're such a good human.
Oh, you asked my kids.
No,
They're like,
I stand by it.
They might disagree.
So, Megan, this has kind of been like a whistle-stop tour of all things fostering. Thank you so much. If just to kind of round us up, what do you find are the 3 most challenging things about being a foster carer, and the 3 best things, the 3 reasons that keep you going?
Whew. 3 most challenging. Can I only have 3? 3.
We'll do a director's cut with all the challenges.
Yeah. 3 most challenging. I think for me is the lying.
Right.
It is completely natural for children and teens who have gone through what they've gone through, and generally they're being told to lie to social services as well by their parents. So lying is innate, lying is normal, and yet lying breaks trust, it breaks relationship, it's super difficult. So for me, I would take CPV, child and parent violence. I would take a kid hitting me over a kid lying to me any day. So I find the lying hard, and it's quite prolific in foster children and teens for obvious and logical reasons. They're self-protecting, and it's too scary to admit I smashed the glass. I couldn't care less if you smashed the glass. They know I couldn't care less if they smashed the glass. They're still terrified to admit they smashed the glass.
Conditions.
Yeah, totally. That's a tiny thing, but then obviously I did not take MDMA last night. Yes, you did. So there's that as well. So lying.
Yeah.
And the other challenge I would say is you can't save them. You can't help them. You can't heal them. And you know they're in bed at night and sometimes they're crying and they don't want you to come in. And you sit there and you know you're helpless. I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that. I find that really hard. And then the third one, challenge. Okay, I don't actually see this as a challenge, but I think other people might see it as a challenge. Is that okay? Because I think I've only got 2 challenges.
Yeah.
But I think this might be
tough stuff, guys.
I know, right? I think the other challenge probably, and I can only speak for the older ones, so I don't know for the little ones, but for the older ones, I think would be the whole, you cannot foster, I mean, it's 1% of fostering that does not pose the behavioural, you know, you might get 1 foster in a million that is not going to display challenging behaviour.
Yeah.
And so if I look over the decade, as I say, there's child and parent violence, there's the drugs, there's the absconding, there's police coming over, there's just so much. Even this morning, I yelled up and I was like, "Number 11, have a lovely day. Please don't get excluded. I'm not home. I can't come get you." She was like, "Okie dokie.
Just one day, be good. Just
one day. Stay in school."
Number 11.
So, and then you get kids, number 6 was excluded, and that's really hard.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they're at home. So I would say challenging things like that can be challenging for people. Actually, for me, I'm just like, this is hilarious.
I was about to say, do you find that over the decade you've been doing it, you're kind of braced for this? It's like, come on in with whatever you're bringing, and I'll take it. It's just kind of like, it's just
100%.
Amazing. And the good points.
The good points.
The points that kind of keep going. Okay, I'm sure there are more than 3.
Yeah.
Hit us with your
So,
top 3.
the good points are when, for example, number 2 left 6 years ago, moved on to a different foster care and everything else, and then a couple of years ago when they turned 16, got back in touch. I mean, you just don't expect it, you don't know, because you don't keep it's not advised necessarily to keep relationship all the
Yeah.
time, but when they get back in touch with you, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
So that's an amazing thing. And then it's the little things. It's when they come in and they fling themselves on the floor and they're like, "You won't believe what happened today." And you're like, "I probably will, to be fair. Tell me."
Yeah, try me.
Yeah. And then they just pour out their, kind of paradigmed, completely unrealistic, generally entitled drama.
Yeah.
And you just sit there and you think, wow, you would never have done that. That's a breakthrough. There's a moment where they just start opening up and they start telling you things and just being honest and it's so lovely that you're like, oh my goodness, we're there. We've broken that barrier. So that I would say is a joy. And then I think the third joy, again, it's going to be the little things. It's when you see them laughing. Yeah. And it's more so when you see their eyes laughing. So maybe they've giggled before or whatever, but their eyes have always looked angry or hurt, and it's never got to the eyes.
Right.
And then something will happen, I don't know, you're watching a TV program or you're trying to make pancakes or whatever, I don't know what it is. Like I make pancakes, but whatever.
Trying to order pancakes.
Yeah. And they laugh and it reaches the eyes.
Yeah.
And so it's the little things that keep you going. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
Amazing.
Worth every moment of drama.
Absolutely. We should do it.
Yeah.
Wow, Megan, thank you so much for coming and sharing all your experiences with us. My teeny tiny little brain is exploding all over the place here. Lots to think about. I hope you enjoyed hearing Megan's insights as well. For more information about fostering, please head to all the links in the bio. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon for another Someone Else's Story.
Yeah.